The next one is called hyperseparation, which is also sometimes called radical exclusion. And this is really interesting. Actually, let me back up a bit. One of the things I'm doing here is I'm drawing heavily on the work of, she's now deceased, but she was an Australian philosopher and feminist and ecofeminist. Her name was Val Plumwood. What book is this from? Did I write? No, I wasn't smart enough to write it down. Sorry. I think it's called Feminism and the Mastery of Nature or something like that. I'll put the actual title in the description below. And yeah, I'll try and put a link to Wikipedia or something so that you can find more information on her. Val Plumwood is a fascinating woman and an amazing feminist. It's really easy. Ignore my phone. It's really easy to say we should all consider nature our peer. It's less easy to say so when nature attacks you and tries to eat you. And apparently Val Plumwood survived an attack by some kind of crocodile, a river crocodile or something, a really serious attack, like she was pulled under and she managed to get out again. And she came through this terrible attack and still fervently believes that that humans are part of nature and that we need to remember that we're part of nature. We cannot think of ourselves as isolated from nature. I will go into that more. I just realized I'm getting off topic here. But anyway, so Val Plumwood, really interesting author. I will say that this book that I took it from, it's very clear she's a philosopher. It's very thick going. It's taken me 2 or 3 tries to get all the way through the book. You know, I'll read a bit and I'll have to stop and go, okay, let's take a break and see if we can integrate all that into our mindset, because she demands that you think very, very hard. I don't know how to put it better than that. I'm sorry. So anyway, I'm going to read a bit from her because this is really interesting, just a short bit. She's talking about hyperseparation, which is also known as radical exclusion. And one of the things that she writes is about that there's a difference between the idea of radical exclusion and distinctness. In the case of distinctness, the focus is on a single characteristic which is different, possessed by the one but not the other. And that guarantees difference in terms of identity. But when you're talking about radical exclusion, what happens is that that different characteristic is emphasized to the point that it becomes the only thing that's important, and any shared qualities you may have are considered inessential. And let me make sure I define hyperseparation or radical exclusion as well. It is when the superior and inferior are characterized as 2 completely separated groups, because the inferior one is seen as alien to the superior being, alien in the sense of completely separate from, with no linkages. Then the inferior is not only placed on that inferior level, but it is also radically excluded from the superior's order of being. And we can see a good example of this. What's a good example? Let's take race. There's a good example. If you actually look at people, at their skin, one of the things you'll see is that there's a lot of variety. I'm a white person, for example, but I know white people who are much paler than me, and I know white people who are much more olive-skinned than me. You get the same thing with black people, with any people, really. And that's one of the things that, sadly, leads to this sort of hyperseparation. No, it doesn't lead to hyperseparation. I'm sorry. It is an element of hyperseparation. The fact that I am a person who loves research, and I love nature, and I love my pets, that kind of thing. I can meet another person who is the same way, also loves research. Sorry about that. But the problem is that if I look at that person and I say, oh, sorry, they have black skin or they have brown skin, therefore I am superior, that's hyperseparation. I have completely negated and ignored all the things that we share in common that could be a lot of fun to share, to talk about. And the only thing that I see is that we have different color skin. That's an element of patriarchy. It's one of the more destructive ones. When we have a chance to connect and we choose not to because they're not as good as I am, or something like that. And that sort of, honestly, falsely superior attitude leads very, unfortunately, naturally, it leads very naturally to the next element of patriarchy, which is called incorporation. And incorporation is when it actually doesn't sound like a lot until you really think about it. Let's see if I can get it very carefully phrased here. Oh, it's also called relational definition. And that's when you get an attitude in which the inferiorized group or individual is identified by the group or individual that believes it's superior. Like I said, that doesn't sound like a lot, okay? They've identified us, so what? But stop and think about the ramifications of that. One of the most common sources of denigrating slang is women's genitals as defined by men. And you get a similar situation with race. You get the so-called superior group using denigrating words to identify, to name the group they see as inferior. This one I'm not going to give examples of because I'm not fond of this one at all. Also, I suspect if I start giving examples, this video would get pulled and the almighty algorithm would not like what I said. But yeah, that's pretty much how that occurs, is that relational definition. The inferior group is identified with negative aspects, negative terminology. The next one is called instrumentalism. The next practice that is common in patriarchy is called instrumentalism. And that's when the supposedly inferior being becomes, in the mind of the more powerful group, becomes an object or an instrument, and its existence is based on satisfying the superior's needs. Yeah, that one's an ugly one too. This one can be, here's a good example. Think of nature. Centuries ago, Mother Nature was a mother. She was a generous, giving mother. And it was because of her that we had life, and we saw her that way, that she produced food for us, that we could not survive without her. Somewhere, I think around the Industrial Revolution, Mother Nature ceased to be considered a mother and became simply a resource source. As in, nature became someplace that you went to get things you needed, and you just took what you needed, and it didn't matter because it was an inanimate object, and who cares what inanimate objects think? They don't think. And so the problem is that nature does actually have needs. It does have an existence outside of satisfying our desires. And if my desire is to use plastic and then discard it, there's a limit to how much I can do that without the repercussions of my damaging behavior. Instrumentalism is when I simply don't consider that. It doesn't matter to me. Nature's needs are not important to me. You can see this kind of thing also in human behavior to other humans, not just Mother Nature or animals. What's it going to do? Let's go back to the classic family again. The very fact that the man is backgrounding the woman says that he perceives her instrumentally, as in she is there just to satisfy his needs. Her needs it's not just that they don't matter to him, he doesn't even consider that she has needs. As far as he's concerned, she's there to take care of him, produce kids, take care of them, and make his life easier. That's a really bad case of instrumentalism, in the sense of the guy really needs help. But I hope that clarifies what instrumentalism is. So, next practice is called homogenization. That's basically where you treat all of the various members of the group that you see as inferior to you. You treat them as if they're all the same. And this is another really easy one to give a description of. If you are part of a superior group and you see all of the group that you see as inferior to you, if you think of them as all degenerates, they're all criminals, they're all murderers, they're all thieves, then you've pretty much lumped them all into one homogeneous group, first of all. Second of all, you've denied them any agency, any personal identity. You cannot see that they are individuals, that they all have their own identities. The other reason that this can be a serious problem is because these people all have their own perspectives. They all have their own desires. And if it cannot occur to you that they have this, then you've cut yourself off from any ability to communicate meaningfully with them. In really bad cases of homogenization, of course, the person who's done this doesn't see that as a loss as far as they're concerned. They give orders to inferiors. They don't listen to them. But again, that's really not good for you. Not emotionally. Actually, probably not spiritually either. Basically, what you've done is you've denied the humanity of other people when you do this. Sorry about the alarm going off. And you've denied the breadth of perspective that other viewpoints can give you. And this can be, it can kind of hamstring you mentally. Again, they've done studies on diversity. And I know in some places diversity is considered a bad word now. But if you look at diversity amongst, what are they called? Corporation boards. If corporations that have boards that have a wide diversity of people on them, it has women, it has people of color, maybe they have trans people, maybe they have disabled people on the board as well, you get more perspectives. And this can lead to more argumentation, but it doesn't have to. If you view each other with respect and you make an effort to communicate meaningfully with each other, then you can grow and benefit from all of these different perspectives. And I'm not saying this just to be like, oh, it would be so nice if we were all nice to each other. They've actually done studies on corporations with diverse boards and corporations that have non-diverse boards. And when I say non-diverse, I mean let's be not ominous, I'm sorry. Let's be obvious here with what we're talking about. A board that consists mostly of white men and a board that consists of more diversity. So now that I've laid the ground, where was I going with it? Oh, right. So the study basically looked at a variety of corporations that had diverse and non-diverse boards. And what they found is that corporations with diverse boards tended to make more money. And I found that really interesting because I actually had a conservative friend of the family try to tell me that you need unanimity on the boards in order to get anything done. And my thought was, you can get unanimity even with a diverse board if you're willing to listen to each other and to learn and compromise and grow from each other's perspective. And I think the problem as he saw it was that he thought, oh, well, all that talking would take up too much time. And I found that really interesting because, as I said to him, if unanimity is that important so that we don't keep arguing about any particular subject, and you can only get it from all the people who are having this discussion being all the same, then why is it always white men? Why can't we have unanimity in a discussion because it's all women or because it's all people of a particular race? That does not help to make a broader perspective and a healthier world. And unfortunately, he did not have a good answer for me. He shifted the subject slightly and he said, well, it takes too long to get unanimity with a diverse board. And I said, well, the problem as I see it is that when we had that kind of unanimity, we didn't get quick, definitive answers any more than we are now. And he said, what do you mean? And I said, well, look at the situation with Roe versus Wade. We're still arguing about that. And it's 50 years old that we decided it happened. And that kind of ended the conversation there. He didn't have a good answer for that one. So I have wandered way off topic there, but hopefully that helps describe homogenization to you. And again, if it doesn't, please feel free to ask questions in the comments.